let's start with the first overall pick, of course, Tyler Smith, right? I'm sure you guys have seen the my reaction to it, and you basically saw that I wasn't too pleased with the pick. Let me give us some music. We ain't doing nothing else. I wasn't super pleased with the pick. But I want y'all to understand, man, because I know who y'all are. I know who y'all are as an audience, and y'all will be like, but Voch, I saw your face when we picked Tyler Smith. Don't celebrate Tyler Smith when he do good things. Now, you wasn't saying that when we picked him. Sure. But let's talk about it, though, right? I do like the player. I've given guys 3rd round grades, 4th round grades, and I've liked those players. Right, but there's a such thing as value when we talk about draft, and we love to champion this idea of best player available. So not only am I looking at the pick, I'm looking at who's on the board. Was I satisfied with taking Tyler Smith? Compared to who was on the board, it was some gangsters on the board. So I'm not gonna, more so lean into the Dean pick because Dean fell to the 3rd round. Will he fell? Third round. He fell to the 3rd round. So I think everybody kind of had the same thing about Dean. We're not leaning into that. And I actually found out Devontae Wyatt had some off the field issues or whatever. So Devontae Wyatt was falling for a reason. But boy, Carl Loftus was there, Devin Lloyd was there, Linderbaum was there, Jermaine Johnson was there. And those are guys that I had ranked over Tyler Smith. So in terms of value and us taking the guy, and where we took the guy. Did I hate it at the time? For sure. Do I hate it now? 100%. Go get Karlaftis and we'll find a cigar later. But does that mean I hate the player? Absolutely not. Trust plus, there's another thing that we got to take into account here. I don't have a 1st round grade on Tyler Smith. If the Cowboys were the only team that had a 1st round grade on Tyler Smith, I would feel a certain way. But if the Cowboys didn't take Tyler Smith, he was going to immediately go to the Titans. If the Titans didn't get Tyler Smith, he wasn't going to go past like 35 or 36 or so. That's real life facts. So the league had a higher value on Tyler Smith. And if we know that, if we're drafting and we know that, and we like Tyler Smith and he won't get back to 56, then it's 100% in the cards that Tyler Smith could end up, being a Cowboy. You know what I'm saying? He can end up being a Cowboy because if we like the guy, and that's the one thing that I will give the Cowboys credit for. If you got a guy and you like the guy, you got a vision for the guy, everybody in the room kind of got the same idea, the same feel for him. If that's going to be the case, take the player. Take the player. And all we can do at this point is just kind of hope it works out. Now, pros and cons for Tyler Smith. And let me just push back at like fans for a second too, because I hate Cowboy fans, right? They immediately took this into a Taco Charlton situation. This is not a Taco Charlton situation at all. Taco Charlton, and look, that's what I love about the internet. Y'all can go find my work. You can just go Google Voch Taco Charlton. Voch wasn't a fan of Taco Charlton as a player in general. This isn't about the player Tyler Smith. This is where we took him. You see what I'm saying? And more so who was on the board. Tyler Smith can play. That dude can 100% play. I didn't think Taco could play. I thought Taco was more of a and look, this is another thing, right? The difference between a project player and a player that needs some work. Taco Charlton had to be built from the ground up. Taco Charlton was touted because of his size and his length. And coaches go, okay, if you give me a dude with size and length, I can build him. I can, teach you how to do. That's a project. Tyler Smith can smoke people right now. He just got to put his hands in the right place. Tyler Smith lines up day one smoking people right now. He just got to make sure his feet are in order, right? And there's this Cowboy PTSD thing that we get when we go, Voch, we just, left from the whole Connor Williams thing where we just dealt with the holding calls, right? Tyler Smith has holding calls. That's the same thing. I'll tell you the difference. Connor Williams had holding calls because he wasn't big and strong. So Connor Williams couldn't really trust his technique because his technique wasn't coming with power. And when you don't have power to mitigate that, your technique has to be perfect. So if you doubt your technique just a little bit, you're going to end up holding because you're going to end up in bad position. That ain't why Tyler Smith holds. Tyler Smith had 16 holding penalties. 9 of those came from him just playing tackle in general. right? And for those of you that may not understand what I'm saying, there's something with tackle that doesn't come with guard, and it's timing of a strike, right? You got to learn how to time strikes. Tyron Smith is perfect at this. You don't want to just come off the line of scrimmage like this and hoping that somebody falls into your hands. That's catching. We're not powerful like that. You want to strike at the line of scrimmage. If you strike at the wrong time, you miss, and the defender takes advantage of you. That happens to Lael Collins a lot. Doesn't happen with Tyron Smith at all because he's amazing. Everybody doesn't have that timing on the outside where they're on the island where they go kick, 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 and they time it perfect. That ain't always the case. If you simply put Tyler Smith at guard, where it's not kick, kick, kick time, it's just kick, hold on for your life, because we fighting in a phone booth now. If that's what you do with Tyler Smith, you cut down on half of those holding calls because you ain't got to worry about him wrestling with some slim, speedy dude in space. You understand what I'm saying? Another 5 or 6 of Tyler Smith's holding calls came from him just being nasty, wanting to destroy people. That's kind of what I want. To be fair, we've been living with Connor Williams, and I've gotten on my soapbox about Connor Williams, but I do think this is an upgrade, right? I do think Connor Williams was a player that can play, but there was some improvement that you would be hoping for with Connor Williams. Connor Williams wasn't nasty. Connor Williams wasn't strong. Connor Williams wasn't moving people off the line of scrimmage. Tyler Smith does those things. And sometimes when you do those things, it turns into a wrestling match. Sometimes when you get into a wrestling match, you get suplexed, but it is what it is. He only played a total of about 16 or so games. I think he had half of last year, which was a COVID year. Then he did the whole year this year. So he hadn't played a whole bunch. But just as a raw stallion horse, all that dude got to do is keep playing and to calm down. If he simply calms down and he starts to murking people like on his free will and not just like, wild man, like, you got you a pick in Tyler Smith. Does that mean he's not a 3rd round value or like a 2nd round pick on people's board? Nah, that you can get a nasty guard like Ed Ingram. You can get a nasty guard that can smoke the hell out of people in the 2nd round, and they'll still be a good player. You know what I'm saying? So my grade of the player hasn't changed. I just want to paint the picture for y'all. Do I think Tyler Smith has upside to be a tackle in the future?
Long way to go.
That film get rough. Yo, Will Steele. And look, this is why I encourage people to, one, do your own research, but to watch your own film and don't watch highlight tapes, right? Highlight tapes are cool to get an idea of the player, but don't let that be your evaluation. If you watch a Tyler Smith highlight tape, yeah, that's Larry Allen player. That's Larry Allen player. But if you watch a whole game of Tyler Smith, you might throw up in your mouth at some of this technique that he got going on. But we got time to work on it from a tackle's perspective. I have no problems with him playing guard, wrestling people in a phone booth. Well, still, what was I know your initial thoughts on Tyler Smith, but have your thoughts kind of switched around a little bit just after you slept on it? How do you feel about Tyler Smith?
It's kind of the same thing that you said. I was never mad at the actual player. My whole thing was, if the Cowboys take him, who else is on the board? Just let me see who else is on the board. But now all that's over with. Honestly, brother, I don't care who was on the board anymore. He's a Cowboy, so right. We're going to evaluate the player. In a way, his film is fun if you look at it a certain way. If you look at it as he's just so raw, right? But it's raw talent. I think there's a difference between being just a raw player and then having raw talent. F.A. Obata is something like that. He was a raw player. We didn't really see the talent yet because he was young in the game. You see it. It's fun. And it's fun because I think some of the things that he can, needs to work on can be coached up, technique based, right? He seems like a very smart kid, a try-hard kid, a want-to kid, wants to be great. I love to hear that when it comes to a player that needs to be, taught that. I loved your tweet earlier in draft season. If it was strength, hands, athletic, feet. List from 1 to 4 the easiest things to fix. And that was perfect. Tyler Smith fits that tweet perfectly. And I think the strength is there, right? The athletic ability is there. You just got to fix his feet and his hands. And I think that's something that can be mitigated from tackle to guard. And then you coach that thing up. And he has a potential to be a really damn good guard for you. It's just, we're other players on the board that you like. But I'm good with the pick now.
Sure. And that tweet was basically, how do you feel like you can fix a player, right? Do you think it's easier to fix Tyler Smith's technique, or is it easier to make Connor Williams strong? Connor been here for 4 years. He never got stronger. You know what I'm saying? Connor Williams never got stronger. But I've seen Terrence Steele work on his technique. You know what I'm saying? I've seen Terrence Steele turn from a player that can't play to a player that can start games for you. You know what I'm saying? And you not have to worry about him. So for sure, I'm a fan of the pick. I saw somebody in the chat earlier. They was like, does he come in better than Connor Williams day one hazard? He says, does he come in day one better than Connor Williams? I think he'll be different than Connor Williams. I don't want to say better because that's like it's a flavor of ice cream type of deal. You know, I don't think he's going to be able to do nuanced things better than Connor Williams. And, you know, Connor Williams was a steady player for a reason. So you may be mad at you know, Connor for giving up a sack because he's not strong. I'm willing to bet you Tyler Smith is going to give up sacks because he's not technically refined, right? They're going to be different players. Do I think you get an advantage in the run game? It depends. Connor Williams can reach, you know, zeros on the other side of the center. You know what I mean? Connor can, you know, climb to linebackers a little more fluently. But we're going to look at Tyler Smith and we're going to see him move a one tech out of a gap, and we're going to be like, hey, man, I'm fine with that. So you just got to be able to live with the player. I'm not ready to say that one is going to be better than the other fresh out the box. That's a weird thing to say, and we're definitely going to touch on that with our second round pick. We just can't say fresh out the box what a rookie's going to do versus a veteran that's been in the league 4 years, that's had the offseason peanut butter a couple times. So that's an unfair question for Tyler. We don't know what he's going to be. But we'll see. Something that I noticed about this draft in particular, though, we always talk about the Cowboys like not having an identity. I think we were leaning towards trying to build an identity, and I noticed it in two places. One, Will Steele, what I always say, are you floor guy or are you ceiling guy?
Yes, sir.
We've learned that, especially in this draft, I think we can even say the same for last draft, the Cowboys are ceiling guy. Cowboys are ceiling guy. We got a lot of dudes that are raw athletes, raw ass athletes, testing numbers off. If you look at Tyler Smith's like testing, like his numbers, like him being like 6'4", 310 or so, 320, whatever he is, but still being athletic to be that big. That's upside stuff. Yep. You look at the rest of the picks, they're athletes. That's upside stuff. So the Cowboys are definitely ceiling guy. I want to give Will Steele some credit for this one, right? We're just talking about identity, right? You want to look at when the Cowboys were at their best and when they're at their worst. We were at their best when we were running the football last year. Cowboys were at their worst and we couldn't stop the run last year. You know what I mean? So what do you do when we get to the draft? We work on running the football. We work on stopping the run. That's what it looked like. That's what it looked like to me. Just going down this list, we trying to get physical. You know what I'm saying? We're trying to get nasty players. We're trying to get some guys that's kind of extra during the play, physicality, right? Attitude era. I'm gonna get you to explain that in 2 seconds. I loved it to pieces. And then shouts out to Mike McCarthy also. Y'all can talk shit about Mike McCarthy all you want to, but hey, think about the playoff game. Think about what happened with the 49ers. Think about what happened there. We need to be more physical. We need to be better. We're gonna talk about Ridgeway at some point, whether it's today or tomorrow. We got a lot of content to fill up, but I love what the Cowboys did in terms of, just going for the identity. Will Steele, you ain't got to do the whole thing that you did this morning on your show, A to Z Dallas, because we don't want to make them mad or nothing like that. But could you just give us some insight on the metaphor that you had, the Attitude Era metaphor? I loved it to pieces. Can you just give the audience some a little bit?
Yeah, for those who don't know what the Attitude Era is, it's the best era in professional wrestling, period. WCW was at the top of the ratings in the 90s, and the Cowboys. The WWF needed something to match their rawness, their reality, the in-your-face, the edginess that they had. So they started an Attitude Era with Stone Cold. And I pretty much said Stone Cold was Micah Parsons. Micah Parsons came in last year, and he was that guy that came in, raised hell, and left. That's Stone Cold's monster, right? But you can't do it by yourself, right? You need other players. You need other teammates if you're talking about wrestling, and they needed DX. And I looked at this class as the DX of the Attitude Era, possibly, right? Based off of what we heard and how they play. Tyler Smith, Sam Williams, Clark, Ridgeway, Tolbert, all these guys have an edge to them, a rawness to them, a doggedness to them, a want-to them that's different, really, than I think in some classes past. But that's no knock on those classes. This is just a different type of mentality they got, and the Cowboys needed that. And like you said, McCarthy was in that room. Jerry, remember the playoffs, dog. Got ass whooped. So hopefully this is the new era, bro.